we put a resolution on the floor or a motion that it would be a stormwater tax, which meant the homeowner, as part of public safety, could write that tax off, their income tax. And just like you do with your interest and everything else. But no, the city council, the city manager, and the staff, they said it has to be a fee. Well, that fee has gone through the roof. It should be, just like trash, a public safety issue tied directly into your real estate taxes, so at the end of the year, when you take your deductions, those are being included. The stormwater fee is out of control, the trash is out of control, and unless you trash this current city council on November 8th, you're going to get more of the same. Thank you very much, and I plan on making a clean sweep on that day.
I echo what Dane says. I think privatize it. There's a county that my friend lives outside of Richmond, and they privatized their trash collection. But not only that, they allowed multiple companies to come in and gave the consumer options on who was collecting their trash. And what they found was the trash companies were actually paying the consumer to pick up certain items that were valuable to them. So I think privatization is the way to go completely on that issue.
We'll start with RK. And I'd like more than just a yes or no with this, so if you would expand a little. Will you follow the will of the people on the light rail referendum?
You know, 4 years ago, I was saying that. 4 years ago, I said, this is a horrible deal. People said, Rick, you know what you're talking about. Light rail's not that important. Really? How important is it right now? So, I guess I just had a little jump start. Maybe this coffee I drink has. Look, I'm not against light rail. Light rail is great for some city, it's just not great for Virginia Beach. But I'll tell you what's more important to me is transparency. It's the will of you people. I've been in front of council, Ms. Jones, you know I was there talking about this. Asking for an up and down vote. I was the guy that orchestrated that up and down vote. That was me and John Atkinson. That's how I feel about it. Hey look, I'm OSHA certified. I'll put the hat on. They won't be screwing us when these deals are going down if you want light rail. But at least let the people have a voice in this. That's all I'm asking. And at the end of the day, light rail, I feel, is a horrible deal. You can't make it up. You have a report. You spent $6.6 million on, it basically tells us we're stupid for doing it. It won't do anything they're asking for. Why are we doing it? I know why. How about $1 billion worth of land projects around light rail systems so one bank can profit from it?
Ladies and gentlemen, as most of you probably, as most of you probably know, when the draft environmental impact statement that you paid for, $6.6 million, all 3,734 pages of it came out. John Moss and I formed a committee to study, go through it, and issue an 82-page white paper. And the analysis was clear, perfectly clear. But number one, no traffic congestion relief, no environmental improvement, and no economic development stimuli whatsoever. Whether this project would cost $327 million or $327, it's a bad project. It will do nothing to help the citizens of Virginia Beach. What will help them is the $500 million worth of backlog of traffic projects within the city. But if the people say we want light rail, then I'm going to do my due diligence to make sure that we don't have $106 million cost overruns and make sure that Norfolk and the incumbency at HRT runs the operation. Thank you.
Well, I started off saying if you're tired of hearing what millennials want you to do for Millennial Council, about 4% of millennials use public transportation, and my campaign has done a really amazing job of getting the word out on what light rail will do to Virginia Beach. And what we're finding is, more often than not, millennials don't want light rail. They don't realize the expense, they don't realize what it's going to do to the beach, and it's time that we have that relatability on council. In terms of the question, I oppose light rail, but I'll support whatever the city wants, and then, like Robert said, do my due diligence to make sure that it's the best deal for the beach. But I think what we're going to find on November 8th is that millennials don't want it as much as the city thinks they do.
This issue that everybody in this room has fought long and hard for many, many years to make sure that light rail does not come to Virginia Beach. And it's not because we are opposed to public transportation. It's just we know that this is not the right solution to our challenges in Virginia Beach. But if the people do vote yes and want to bring light rail to Virginia Beach, it has to be honored. It is a non-binding referendum. But frankly, if that referendum passes yes, I'm not going to be on city council anyway. So, you know, it won't happen. Obviously, that's going to happen.
Robert Dean, have you read the Virginia Beach City Charter? What would you change if you could?
Boy, that's a very interesting question. We have a very good charter, believe it or not. The problem is the variation that the city council takes in trying to circumvent a lot of the requirements of the charter. One thing that really strikes me as incomprehensible, it used to always be in this city that if you had a bond issue, like for schools, whatever the roads, you would go out and you'd put it on a referendum. In their magical wisdom, they decided, well, we're going to circumvent this, and we're going to have all the bonds issued through the Economic Development Authority. And what does that do? That washes them away from the issue and keeps the council intact as though we are so wonderful, we don't raise your taxes, but all the debt carries over to you from the Economic Development Authority. It should be mandated, once again, and the council should follow the city charter. All expenditure for bond issues as far as more than $10 million has to go to a referendum.
I will be honest, I have not read the charter. That's something I need to sit down and do. I will say, though, that, you know, as Robert said, any big expenditures need to be on a referendum. The city needs to be taking full consideration of what people want. The arena deal is a perfect example of that. CTAC overwhelmingly did not want the arena, and thank goodness it didn't pass. But we need to be looking at every community that's directly impacted by any kind of big project. They need to be involved in the conversation, and the city as a whole needs to be involved in the conversation as well.
I'm simply going to echo Robert's comments. That's exactly right. We need to make sure that anytime we're going to borrow the money, the bonds are going to be issued that, you know, above that $10 million per the charter, that we make sure that citizens have an opportunity to express their opinion on that. To me, that's good representative government.
I haven't read the charter, but I've talked a lot about it here lately. And, you know, I didn't want to get involved in things I couldn't change right now because I want to get elected so I can change some of these things. I think we need to revisit the district reward system. We need the state's help for that. I think it's very important so the people of the area can understand what's going on and how important it is, so they can communicate that to the other council people as well. But I tell you one thing I will change: corruption. I'm going to put some stringent laws on the books to detail what you can and can't be involved with, and the consequences won't be picking up dog crap on the street. I can tell you that. It's going to be a whole lot worse than that, because that is the single greatest thing you do. When you violate the trust of the people, you got nothing. When corruption doesn't matter, no election will ever matter, and it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed now, or no conversation is worth having. It's the #1 issue. Once that's fixed, we can start engaging in dialogue about fixing some other things. That has to be fixed and foremost, and I'm the only one I know up here that's been talking about it, and I know how to fix it, and I have a plan to fix it.
Jessica, student populations in schools is dropping as middle and low-income families are leaving Virginia Beach. What can be done to stem the tide of families leaving Virginia Beach?
I think ultimately it comes down to diversifying our economy, but it is worth noting that 35 to 40% of our student population is on free or reduced lunch. My husband teaches at SeaTac Elementary School, and that's a serious problem. His school has to organize weekend food for these kids because they're going home hungry, and in many cases, they're asking for additional snacks because they don't know when their next meal is coming. And I think it speaks volumes to the city that we have that much of our student population on free and reduced lunch, and that means that people cannot afford to live here. If you want people to stay, there has to be alternative markets for people to work, and there has to be affordable for people to live here. And that ultimately comes down to making an affordable real estate tax.
Yeah, that's a problem. I know that as I'm going around and talking to people, especially working families, many people are struggling to be able to meet the basic needs of their household budgets, to have any type of disposable income. So as city spending has increased and our disposable incomes decrease, especially for retirees, it's going to be a real problem. And I understand why people may want to leave. There are other less expensive cities nearby. So obviously one of the first things that I think about, and it's what's proven it worked when President Kennedy was in office, it worked when President Reagan was in office, and it worked when President Bush was in office, that when you reduce taxes and deregulate, then it gives people more of their hard-earned income to keep. So it's a simple solution. And if we look at economic diversification, like the biotech corridor, if we can look at getting companies here with high-speed internet, we can bring tech companies in. There's a lot we can do. We can be a center of excellence for cybersecurity. We have some good opportunities. It's a great place, and we can meet that challenge.
Repeat your question.
The schools.
Repeat the question, please.
Student population in schools is dropping. As middle and low income families are leaving Virginia Beach, what can be done to stem the tide of families leaving Virginia Beach?
Corruption. My stepson's a perfect example. He moved to Atlanta. He doesn't feel it's a level playing field. He goes, when we're picking winners and losers, here we go again. We've dropped what? In year 1995, we have 84,000 students. Now we have 68,000. Really? Where's the growth? Our budget's gone crazy. We put plenty of money in our schools. Why are people leaving? Picking winners and losers? Well, we need to change that tide a little bit. We need to set an example for all the rest of the cities and the counties in the country to come here and learn how to do business. Make the free enterprise live and well. If we're going to educate our students, let's make sure they want to come back here and start a business by keeping low taxes in a safe city and great education. Those are things that will make it happen, not public-private partnerships, picking winners and losers.
Well, I certainly have to echo everything that's been said up here this morning, but I think it starts at the top. When you have a city manager, Virginia Beach, making more annually than the Secretary of Defense, who oversees all the military worldwide, every ship, every aircraft carrier, all the men in Europe, and he's only making slightly over $200,000, where our city manager is making nearly $275,000, something's wrong. And then as we continue to try to downsize and get more productive, we go out and we hire more assistant managers. And who's paying for it? Those people who least can afford it. And that's why they're leaving. The demographers from Cooper Weldon and UVA stated by the year 2040, there will be a decline in population of Virginia Beach. There's been a dramatic decline already in student population. And what we've seen, as the families that left this area left at a certain pay level, the ones came in behind them are at a lower pay level. Something's got to change.
When elected, what are your plans to address the issues regarding the city council process of funding special interest wants versus the government's role, safety, education, and infrastructure?
That's that's one of the prime reasons I'm running, right? Is to make sure that we are not giving our hard-earned tax dollars to certain favored special interest groups. Which it's interesting when you go and look at vpap.org at the donations that my opponent, Ms. Wilson, is getting. It's a who's who of many of those special interest groups here in Virginia Beach, and that's a fact. So you can rely on me when you vote for me on November the 8th. That's going to end.
You know, I was just a surf shop owner, man. I just want to go have fun and surf and play ball and rugby and softball I played. I didn't want to get involved with politics. I didn't have a desire. But all of a sudden now we're picking winners and losers. I'm going, wait a second. All that education I got, this is just not right. It's against the Constitution. What are we doing here? Come on. These deals are, and on top of it, they're not working. They're hurting. They're not working. Nobody wants to talk about that. Cannibalism is not a way of fixing things. And that's what we're doing here. It has got to stop. Government has a place. Public safety, education, infrastructure. It's not a job to say who gets a hotel, who gets a restaurant, who gets a parking garage. It's there to create an environment that business will grow. And it's exactly what I will do day one. We're going to change policies and make it work so everybody's treated fairly.
Harlan, would you please repeat the question?
When elected, what are your plans to address the government's role, safety, education, infrastructure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have an outstanding police department, outstanding public service for all our public works, all of our trash pickup, everything that the deck plate folks do. They do a wonderful job. But just think how much better our living standards would be, how much more disposable income we would have if, in fact, we didn't throw hundreds of millions of dollars into town center. Look around the city. Look at the new Walmart and so-called town center. Not a single penny of your tax dollars went into that building. Haywood Shopping Center, the Kroger Marketplace, they put in $25 million on Holland Road. And they received an award from our Economic Development Authority, but not one single penny. One thing that needs to be done, ladies and gentlemen, when you abstain from the vote, you need to recuse yourself. And that means whoever it is, if it's the mayor, I don't care, you have to leave the town council chambers, turn the gavel over to the vice mayor, and leave the room, and have no contact with any developers on that process.
Well, big thing is the city fully funds all city positions, whether they're staffed or not. We can do ourselves a great service and not funding those positions and make up for teacher salaries, police salaries. We need to be funding core services, public safety, our public schools, and transportation solutions that work. And we do that by being critics of the budget, and we do that by being critics of council, and that's something I will do on council, and I will encourage my peers and the citizens around me to do as well.
RK, we're starting with you. How do you feel about the Virginia Beach Arena, and what safeguards do you want to see implemented?
You know, this is a perfect example of a bad deal. I had several, my wife's a teacher that teaches for 36 years. I had two of her teacher friends call me on the phone and go, what does RK feel about the arena deal? I said, RK doesn't get involved with it. I'm not going to get in the middle of that because I know a lot of friends are involved in it, a lot of business people involved in it. I don't get it, but all of a sudden I read the contract. I said, you've got to be kidding me. I heard no public money. No public money, really? How about $150 million of public money going to make that work? Because you got to build a parking garage. It's horrible. It's a bad deal. It's a horrible location. Let me tell you something. Business people look for three things. Location, location, location. You can't put your back against the wall and expect success. If you want to do an arena deal, go to Newtown Road, put it in the middle, you can draw from 360 degrees, you have access from the interstates. It was a bad deal before it started, and it's a bad deal now, and we got no business being involved in that deal.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I followed this process on the arena from the inception to when we thought we had all the information on the agreements, especially the financial papers. And then all of a sudden it morphed. It was almost like the old 31st Street, where the changes to the agreement were almost weekly. It got so bad that even Councilman Jones, who was vice mayor at the time, said, I want no part of this because I can't keep up with the changes from the developer. The same thing happened here. And there's one thing that Rick sort of is like a bull in a china shop. You have to follow the money. Follow it to China, my friends. That is the key to this whole issue. And we are being kept out of the dark on this. We don't have honesty and transparency in this project, and yet you want us to sign on the dotted line for up to $150 million worth of infrastructure, and the payback over 33 years is about $438 million. And Marlene, I have to convene my homeowners association at 10:30, our annual meeting. 16,000 people, 4,902 homes. I have to be there, and I am so sorry that it only happens once a year. And if I may, if with your permission, your indulgence, I could ask Tony Hendrick to come up here and do my closing when it's time. Would you please, Tony, if they would allow you? Okay.
If it's
And I apologize.
Is it a minute and 30-second closing when the time comes? We're not at that point yet. We're okay.
I think anytime there's any public money in any project, it's the city's duty to question the affected communities. And again, if you go down to SeaTac, they do not want the arena. They've never wanted the arena. George Menz has been a very vocal person in that community saying that they didn't want the arena, and I think it is wrong of the